Okay.
What you doing? Who's that?
Just go ahead, man.
1, 2, 3, 4. Welcome to the show. We ain't talk about the show.
Welcome to the show. We ain't talk about nothing show.
Welcome to the show. We ain't talk about nothing show.
I like that. I like that. Welcome to the show. We ain't talking about nothing show.
We ain't.
So I can't chop and screw. I learned this song at that tempo. I can't slow it down. Welcome to the show. We ain't talk about nothing show.
All right. Well, I think that we've had enough.
Why is that so hard for us, man?
I'm not quite sure. And you know, it's torture every week for me.
It's pretty bad. You got Mark who's tone deaf and me who can't sing to save my life, and the opera soul child.
Right, the Black Pavarotti. That's right. What's up, family? Welcome.
Oh,
Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the We Ain't Talk About Nothing show.
No, nothing.
Where we talk about a whole lot whilst talking about absolutely nothing at all.
Absolutely nothing.
But there's a whole lot to talk about. So come on in, pull up a seat, invite your friends and family. Hey, do us a favor and like the page, love the page. That's right. Stay in your gifts. Amen.
Right.
Glory. Amen. The Saints crack me up when they say "bless your hearts."
Look, because it ain't really, a nicety.
No precious. Trying to say,
that's my homegirl from West Virginia. She's really short and she's mad.
Oh, so she's the other one of the two people in West Virginia, two black people in West Virginia.
Oh no, what's plenty of them there? Oh, that's what we doing.
Lord. Oh man.
What's up, Trisha
Williams? Hey, Trisha.
Hey, what's up, family?
What's up? Hey, family, do us a favor, like the feed, show us some love, give us a hand wave, let us know that you're here. We like to interact with our viewing audience.
Bless your heart.
Hey.
That's Sister Bonnie.
Hey, Grandma.
Bonnie from Westwood.
That's right. Matt West in the house.
Yeah, that's it.
My folks.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Oh man. All right, guys, how y'all doing today?
I'm doing good. Mondays are good days for me, man. I'm intentional about some self-care kind of stuff on Mondays, I'll say. So doing good so far this week. Let's hope we can keep it up.
You see, Dave's sister trying to make sure that
What's up, Val?
Hey, Val.
Cutting the check.
Look,
if they cut
he's getting the same amount we all get.
Right. I'm gonna need some royalties pretty soon.
I know that's right. Yo, I'm doing good, man. So I bought some new trimmers and I zero gapped them joints. Gave myself a lineup and sliced up every part of my face all around here.
So we gotta explain what zero gapping is.
I just did that for the first time.
I too have zero gapped some clippers before and proceeded to cut an outline of my shape up around the perimeter of my head.
I mean,
if you really zero gap them, you in trouble. You better like almost zero gap.
And that's the thing. You can't really zero gap. You gotta. I mean, man, that edge up was crispy, and the next day I was burning. And then like, what's the crackhead from Dave Chappelle show? They'd be like, "Hey, man." I was like, I don't know what's wrong with me.
Once you put that alcohol, that green alcohol, it is
over. Do you hear me?
But now explain to me. I thought that when you zero gap, it's supposed to make it sharper.
It is. So
Right.
so when you zero gap it, so basically how the clippers come, Mark will probably be able to explain this better than I can. The top blade is here and the bottom blade is
Right.
like under it a little
Because
bit.
they naturally come a little off.
Right. So when you zero gap it, you bring that bottom blade a little further up, excuse me, and there's no gap between the top blade and bottom blade.
Right.
And zero gapping is making them even, which will cut you. And if you make that bottom blade over the top blade, it'll really bite you.
Oh yeah, it'd be biting.
So it says zero gap, but if you go zero gap for real, it's gonna bite you.
And so the tendency is that because you're not used to it being zero gap, you can give it a little more pressure when it's not zero. But when that joint zero gap, you just need to lay it on and just have it like that. But
James said Tyrone Biggums. That's the crackhead.
Tyrone Biggums. That's it.
Off of Specail show. What's up, James?
Yeah, hey man. Yeah, I mean, I don't know what's wrong. I'm itching everywhere.
That's hilarious.
Tyrone Biggums. I'm so man.
Yeah.
But so y'all zero gap your liners.
Yeah.
Or did you zero gap the clippers too?
Well, I zero gap my clippers too. Because
I did my clippers. I didn't do the
I've never done
trimmers.
my clippers. I always do with my trimmers. So what's the effect on doing that with your clippers?
So if you ball fade, like sometimes right here with my beard and my hair meet, I want to ball fade that so that when I'm fading it up, I can get as close to what's
Look at it, my ball.
I just learned how to just get rid of it, and that's
right.
it. I ain't doing nothing special.
What kind of clippers are you using?
My pay grade.
So I'm using the Oster Fast Feeds, and then the Andis
outliners.
Outliners. Yeah. Oh yeah. So the Andis outliners don't get no better than that.
Those are the Black Man Clipper standard. Like Black Man outliners.
I bought a pair when I was 16 in my adult life. The only time I was out of a pair was this is kind of funny, and somebody gonna tell this foolishness. We went on one of these AIN trips, and Scott Moore said, "Hey man, you got some trimmers?" And I was like, "Yeah." So I let them take my trimmers, and I never got them back. I don't know what he did with them trimmers.
They still in his bathroom right now. You hear me?
Never got him back.
He still got him.
I need to get him back tomorrow. That's hilarious.
Yeah. So I've had them all my life.
Cool. We got a lot of folk watching us. Good little group watching us tonight. Frank Jackson, what's up, Frank?
What's up, Frank?
All the way from Detroit.
They try. They try.
That's right. That's right.
Fooling with Frank Jackson and Mark Thomas. I went out and bought the whole Star Wars DVD set because they were talking about it randomly at like the winter meeting in New Orleans. And they were like, "You didn't see that one?" And I was like, "No, I only saw like the two that didn't look like Yoda was a hand puppet." And they was like, "No, it's a lot better. There's so much content in the other one." So I went and bought the whole joint and tried to watch it all as soon as I got home from the wedding. I ordered it and Amazon had it there by the time I got home. I did not make it. I didn't make it through.
You haven't seen them yet, still?
So I
still haven't seen one of them.
The old ones just look so old. I can't watch stuff that look so old.
Oh,
they gotta redo them joints.
So it look like them westerns.
Yes.
Cinematography, like it look old.
Man, y'all talking about, man, bro, the good, the bad, and the ugly. That's where they got the wah wah wah. The music, like you gotta watch them westerns.
My grandmother loved them joints. Big
my father loved them westerns.
Oh my god,
that's it.
What is that? Turner Classic Movies.
Turner Classic Movies. Only one I got is Cherokee Kid. That's the joke with Sinbad.
So there's one called The Pride of the Sierra Madre or something like that. And so Humphrey Bogart is in there. And there's these Mexican dudes that's after him, and they acted like they're Mexican federal agents. And they said, he says, "Hey, we the federale, you got to come out." And he said, "If you're a federale, where's your badges?" He said, "Badges? What badges? We ain't got no badges. We don't need to show you no badges. We don't need no stinking badges. Bruh, when I tell you, if you tell somebody my age, we don't need no stinking badges, or they gonna bust out laughing. We don't need no stinking badges. Google that foolishness and you will bust out laughing that they actually put that in a movie and it was serious. Like that's the serious.
Oh, it wasn't a joke.
Right. Oh no, it wasn't a joke.
Oh, that was serious.
We don't need no badges. We don't have to show you no badges. We don't need no stinking badges. That's an actual line from a movie. That is the funniest stuff you have ever heard in your life.
But it wasn't meant to be funny.
No.
Wow. I thought they was like clowning.
That's what I thought. Like they were making fun of somebody. That's serious. Okay. All right.
Pleasure of the Sierra Madre. See, Lisa, I knew you would know because you're a little older than me. And okay.
I'm glad you got company tonight.
That's like a running theme of the show that Mark Thomas swears everybody that's his age is older than him.
That's right.
Everybody is older than Mark Thomas in his head.
That's
except us, because he always got a school of youngins. But everybody else, everybody else is older than him, except his nephew. Simone is my age, and he swears Simone is his age.
I did not know. I thought
Simone is like my age for real, for real.
She's been around a long time, man. She always at stuff.
That's right. She always at stuff.
So what does that have to do
30 years, baby?
With anything?
Been alive 30 years.
You know, she was 20 when she started coming. She been around 30 years. She 50. I just, you know, that's ignorant. That's math.
Ignorant.
You said that's math.
That's math. With an F. If y'all can't do math,
maths.
you just shouldn't be on the show. Okay. All right. This. Oh, get rid of you. Get rid of you. And I'll bring y'all back when y'all know how to do math.
Well, give me my check like you've been sending David's check still, and I'll be gone. Send me my check.
I just, okay. Oh man, that's hilarious. Well, guys, there's a whole lot happening in the world, and if you've been tuning into We Ain't Talking About Nothing for the last week or so, we've been interviewing folks who are all over the country, and it's been a blessing. I mean, to see so many of our colleagues in ministry in different countries. I'm tired, y'all. Countries in different. What's the other word? Cities.
Not countries.
Not counties. Other cities across the country. But, you know, we're also excited, you know, and really privileged to be a part of the movement that's happening here in D.C. And I know you guys were part of the Baltimore district, went with the Baltimore district on Saturday down at the Black Lives Matter Plaza.
Whoop, whoop.
Sunday. And so let's talk about that some. I know that there's a lot of kind of sentiments in the air. And I just want to know from you both. I know that your experience Sunday was a blessing. So tell the folk.
Yeah, Damo.
Yeah, so I made a Facebook post, I think Friday. So Friday I had to go by my church, which is North Capitol R, Metropolitan Wesley, Metropolitan Wesley English Iron Church, MetropolitanWesley.com. If you're looking for us, Metropolitan Wesley on
shameless plug.
Metropolitan Wesley on Instagram. So I had to go by the church for to do a few things, and so I rode down like toward the White House and all that after I got done, and the military presence was striking. You know, of course, I expected the police presence, but like the vans full of people in fatigues with ARs and then the armored vehicles and the little tanks and stuff. It was it was quite noticeable. I guess I headed that way around 6:30. So it was interesting, and so I got close enough to see Black Lives Matter Plaza, but I didn't get out my car. One, because I was alone, and two, because the road restrictions were pretty intense. But when I went out Sunday, when we went out Sunday, it was a little earlier, so we got there around 2:00, and so the military presence wasn't as heavy when we got there, and really, if I could liken it to anything else that I've seen, it was like HBCU homecoming.
Yeah.
It was plenty of people, hundreds of people. Everybody kind of out there, you know, it was really like so much camaraderie. People out there giving away hand sanitizer and cold drinks and snacks.
Yep.
Restaurants were giving away free food. People out there selling $50 T-shirts. Like just like an HBCU homecoming.
Always a hustler. Always
Like,
a hustler in the
the
crowd.
alphas were there, the black preachers were there. You ain't want to
That's right.
cross between people because you might have to fight them for like breaking their line. It was, you know, it was really a moving experience, but it wasn't nearly anything like, you know, had been depicted on television. The news didn't really do it justice.
Nah. And I think for me, so to set this up for people who don't know the DMV. So first of all, and we're gonna talk about this at some point on the show. So we're all from Prince George's County, which is on the outskirts of DC. When you ask somebody, if somebody asks you where you're from, before we came up with the DMV thing, when they asked you where we were from, if we said Maryland, they thought Baltimore or Annapolis.
Baltimore or Annapolis. That's
or
right.
like the Eastern Shore or something. We're like, no, that's not, you know.
Not at all.
No,
right. Completely not at all.
We fight you for that stuff.
Right. So we had to say DC because it put it into perspective. Now DC, somebody needs to Google. It's like 64 square miles. It's not very big, but what makes it big are the suburbs. So the suburbs of Prince George's County, Montgomery County, and then Northern Virginia, and all of the cities over there. These places are huge. Millions of people live in this, and so we are all from either inside the Beltway or just outside of the Beltway. That's the highway that surrounds it. So anything inside the Beltway is definitely urban. Just outside that Beltway is still urban. And then the further out you get, like way down there where Val lives, that's not urban at all. They be growing stuff and cows and stuff down there. So
and I love it.
I love it too. If it wasn't for that traffic, baby, I'd be living down there too.
I hear you.
Right.
I hear you.
So where the Black Lives Matter Plaza is actually 16th Street. The White House is on the corner of 16th and Pennsylvania Avenue. So when you're
like right here,
right, exactly.
So here's the White House. There's the Lafayette Park, Lafayette Square, and then the park that's there, and then Black Lives Matter Plaza T-bones the White House.
And so a lot of people are saying the White House's address changed.
Yeah, it did.
Not technically,
not really.
But the White House, because the White House, the address
it's still on Pennsylvania Avenue.
Pennsylvania Avenue. So it's technically not on Black Lives Matter Plaza, but that's the cross street.
But it's at the corner of.
It's the cross street. That's
right. So go to Black Lives Matter Plaza and look for the big White House, and you can tell people that, you know. So the pride that we take in seeing that right in front of the White House, and that the mayor of DC pulled a boss move. Like Congress has to approve some stuff. Like they have to approve the budget for DC and that sort of thing. But there's some things that the federal government has no control over in DC, and that's under the purview of the mayor. And so here's what the mayor did. He talk about a boss move. So they bring in these troops who aren't what's the National Guard. They aren't National Guard. They brought, and even though they did bring in National Guard troops, they brought in federal military, federal guardsmen from like prison guards, and dressed them up in military uniform with no insignia. So like my cousin James is out here, he would know, and there's some others who are out here who've been in the military. They don't have any insignia on, and they're down there with beanbag guns and the guns with rubber bullets in it, and it looks menacing. They got the shields and all this kind of stuff. I went to the front line. I saw fear in their eyes. I'm telling you, I can't make this stuff up. But here's the boss move. Not only did she put down the Black Lives Matter thing, so when you call in the National Guard, usually the governor calls in the National Guard.
Right.
And so the governor calls in the National Guard. The governor has to fit the bill. Well, DC doesn't have a governor. So they call in the National Guard. The federal government is expecting DC to pay for it. The mayor of DC pulled the funding for the rooms. These Bamas down here trying to keep us from protesting, get back to their hotel rooms. They ain't got no place to stay.
No,
Boom.
I hadn't heard that.
Boom. Boss move. Oh, checkmate.
Wow.
She ran a Boston on them Bamas, man. What are you talking about?
So the DC mayor is very limited in power and scope, but the power and scope that she got, she put that joint to use.
Yeah.
It was really a beautiful display of chess. It really was.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And it wasn't always like that. So some of y'all know Marion Barry and whatever issues he had. Part of them wanting to catch him in his tomfoolery was so that they could marginalize whomever was the mayor of DC, and that they could forever keep DC from becoming a state, because the thinking is amongst white America is that these black folks don't deserve their own state, because look at the man that they put in as their mayor. So it's pretty. It goes pretty deep.
Yeah. Well, then the Black Lives Matter folks came and added to it.
Yeah. So while we were down there, we had been out there a little while, maybe 30 minutes, and I think it may have been Reverend Lorenzo Lyons who pointed out, y'all see that part right there? What does that say? And it said, defund the police.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't remember that saying that in those screenshots. I mean, those aerial shots that I saw on the news. So I went to pick up my phone, start looking at stuff that didn't say that the other day.
It didn't say it. So
you were out there when it went up, right?
That's right. So what happened was we were all.
You were out there when they put that up too.
I was out there Saturday night. I took Mia down there.
Right. Okay.
She wanted to make a sign
because it's an HBCU homecoming, and you got to take your kids and your wife out to see that.
That's right. So
it is like an attraction. You really got to
right.
It's pilgrimage.
It is.
It really is. So we get down there. They start asking people to spread out. So then you saw them chalk something on the ground, and they were asking, move back. And then they were measuring stuff off. They were walking back and forth. Then they started doing this circle. So you couldn't really see what was going on the inside. They was chanting and all this other kind of stuff. And the whole time, them bands was painting. And when they finished all that, it was like the Ethiopian flim flam. Y'all don't know nothing about that, but you need to rent Blazing Saddles. You gotta check that out. I'm tired, man. I can't keep schooling y'all about stuff y'all know.
I was getting ready to say it sounded like a scene
for a long time. You enjoy
it. I don't know that reference. It sounded like it was a Black Panther movie.
Right. The Ethiopian flim flam. You got to know about it, baby. So by the time they finished, they had painted this thing, and the mayor, I think, even Black Lives Matter, you all know, wasn't really with what she had done, but I like the fact that you saw on the news today, she's gonna let that stand.
She's gonna let it stand.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yep. So it was amazing. It was amazing.
I mean, the thing is exciting. I mean, as meaningful and powerful as that image is, I'm hopeful to see what happens next. That's just what I'm, because this is the same woman. I'm still mad at her about that mumble song stuff.
Yeah.
So images are
honest, man.
But you gotta tell
y'all
they don't know what she said, and they don't know what mumble sauce is.
Oh, they know. Y'all know what she said.
Oh, y'all should know by now. We've talked about this.
Yeah. We've been talking about it for forever.
So mumble sauce is ubiquitous sauce in DC. You can find it at any right. You find it at any carry out, but it's different wherever you go. So everybody goes to their spot that has the mumble sauce that they like. And
I like the darker, spicier version of it myself.
I do too.
I know some people like the lighter, sweet.
Yeah.
I mean, except for Chibot, but I like the darker,
I
spicier.
don't know.
Oh, are you on the fence, Patrick?
I've got to, because now that you say that, I've got to do like a little taste test, because I don't think I've ever like really.
That would be a great idea for the show.
We really should do that.
We should have like some of our folks who aren't from here to like try them out. Of course, we have to try too, because it's only right. Because
now,
I like
we've been eating too much. We probably shouldn't make taste testing part of this experience.
So I'm gonna taste test too. I don't care what you say. I'm gonna taste test too.
We've been tasting everything.
Right, we have been. I'm trying to get this water.
Yeah, bro. I mean, yeah. So that's why my name tonight is Rona Body, because this Rona done took over.
Struggle is real.
I'm not pretty no more. I was pretty before Rona hit, baby. I was. And now.
But I keep thinking about how Lent came, and I was really working it, man.
See that?
Then Corona happened. Is that your flag?
Yeah, that's a muscle with fat over it. It's not right.
So, kind of getting back to the DMV topic stuff. Don't we got some guests that we want to bring on to talk about some of the stuff with us?
We do. Hold on. I'm curious about what y'all think about defunding the police. Joe Biden's comments that you ain't black if you.
What do you think, guys?
Yeah, that's my cousin Adrian. Yo, so Biden shouldn't have said that. I get what he's saying, and he said it tongue in cheek.
But he can't say
white
that.
people can't say that.
But he can't say that.
He can't say that.
And that's part of what we'll probably get into later on in the discussion too. So I think that's appropriate. You know, that's a great question to kind of help us segue. So I think this is an interesting time for race relations in this country. And particularly those of us here in the DMV, it's kind of complicated for us because so many of us grew up in spaces that were dominated by black people that, like, you know, personally, like I can opt out of white spaces without a big impact to my day-to-day life. I go to black church, I go to black school. I went to a black school a couple times before this. And so because of the demographics of our area, I went to a black high school, and we may have had like 15 white students there. We had some white teachers, but there's, you know, always this question that kind of circulates: how old were you when you had your first black teacher? Like, I had my first white teacher in like first grade, and I didn't have another one until like 12th grade.
Oh wow!
Oh really? Wow.
Yeah, because no, I'm sorry. I had two in middle school. I'm sorry. I forgot about them. I had two in middle school, but so I had one in first grade, one in like seventh grade, and then two in seventh grade, and then I ain't had no more again until 12th grade of high school. So it's like, you know, based off of the demographics here and, you know, how it works, like, it's not a lot of impact to not be in white spaces here. But that's not the case everywhere. And I think it's easy to lose sight of that growing up and living here. It ain't like that everywhere.
Right.
Yeah.
So conversely, and that's why we have our guests on, because my experience was different. When I moved here, 8th side of town, that was that's totally black and Hispanic now, was Lily White. And I was the only black kid in Forestville, Maryland, at Longfields Elementary School. I was the only black kid in my elementary school.
I went to Longfields, man. I didn't know you went.
Did you?
I did.
Oh, that's great.
I sure did. Yeah.
Yeah. So they had us up in there, man. That's crazy, dude.
Yeah, I sure did.
Yeah. So I was only there for like a year and a half. Then we moved to C Pleasant. So. But yeah, let's bring them on, man. Come on.
Who we got?
First of all, let's bring out the lady that used to babysit me when I was a little boy, make my peanut butter jelly sandwiches just like I like it. More jelly, little peanut butter, cut the crust off. My babysitter, Aunt Pat. Hey,
Aunt Patricia.
What's up, Auntie?
What's up, Aunt Pat?
Hello, fellas. Hello, fellas. How are
How
you?
you doing, Aunt Pat?
I got that
I'm
camera
doing
working.
well.
got them
Aunt Pat, what you looking down on us?
No, does it look like I'm looking down?
Oh yes, baby. You looking down?
Oh,
Is
we
that
can
better?
see all the way to your
There
brain.
you go. That's better.
Yeah, right.
Is that better?
them lips is a glistening. Go like this, Pat. That's not what I asked you to do.
And Aunt Pat, do not be on here laughing at
Aunt
my
Pat.
Thomas tonight, please.
Hello, fellas.
Aunt Pat put her lipstick on for this.
She got her lips
show.
on.
I
Who you
sure
trying to
did.
show off for?
She got 'em on.
Don't ask her who she's showing out for, because she'll tell you.
She sure will.
Yo, we're gonna talk about this thing. Also, we got the little one, the 5-foot assassin, the light, bright, always right
And David, big brother.
of DST. Ladies
You
and
gonna get
gentlemen,
punched, Patrick.
welcome to the stage, Colgate.
Hey, Shantice.
Hey, Shantice.
Hey, Shantice.
Is you
Oh,
muted?
no.
You might be muted. We can't hear you.
Lord have mercy.
Hear me now.
There you go.
We are trying
I
to
think she was
present.
cussing.
Lord have mercy. Hey, Shantice.
Hey, guys.
you?
How are you? I'm good, Patrick.
Good.
How are you guys tonight?
Good.
Doing good. Thanks for joining us, Aunt Pat and Shantice.
Can you see us?
I can. Yes.
Yeah,
Can you see me?
How many fingers I got up?
Oh, whatever. I also heard Patrick call me, you know what?
Oh, see that? I didn't say that.
He didn't say that.
You didn't hear that.
He didn't say that.
You didn't say that.
He
They
didn't say that. Whatever you
What you-
say, he said.
What are you guys not talking about tonight?
A
A
lot.
lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were just kicking around earlier, talking about while we were talking about all of this stuff that's going on with the racial components. Some of it, especially here in the DC area, more particularly in Prince George's County, because we're all from here.
Mhm.
The busing issue, I brought that up. How it was a big part of life in Prince George's County, and
Mhm.
because Pat was my babysitter, she experienced it from its inception, and then I experienced it from like right in the middle of the experiment, and then you experienced it when it was clear that it wasn't working, but they were still doing it.
Mhm.
And now that you're an educator in the county, and Pat gets paid to like shop every day.
Oh, that's funny.
Just stay home.
Right, very much, gardening and stuff.
Right. Are they hiring? I like that job.
So we figured we bring y'all on so we can talk about it from that perspective. So
But so
Cool.
in terms of explanations, because the thing that's unique is, of course, my experience is different, having been in private school and all of
Right.
that in Peachy
Right.
County. And so I know. So busing for me growing up, I thought was just the kids going to their neighborhood school, because at private school, your parents drop you off,
and y'all know
But
that.
Right.
or you
But
carpool
Patrick-
or something.
Patrick,
So-
in our generation, that's kind of what it was, because the busing in that way had kind of stopped by the time we came along. So it wasn't as, big of a hot button kind of socio-economic thing when we came along. And to the point that I didn't understand the concept of busing until I got to my PhD program. So my first semester as a doctoral student, we talked about busing in the context of, the racial disparities and all that kind of thing, schools and not being equitable and all that. And I was like, oh, that's the thing. And somebody was like, "Yeah, where are you from?" And I said, "I'm from PG County." And they said, "PG County, y'all did it." And I was like, "No, we didn't."
Right.
Like I went to the school up the street, and like that's how it worked. And they were like, "Nah, bro, like your area has kind of a history with busing." And then they explained what busing meant and all that. And I was like, "Damn!" So
that's what I was saying. So since that wasn't and it certainly wasn't mine, and that was something we kind of heard about. But I think by the time we were coming along, it meant something different. So, I'm just in terms of making sure that everybody's on the same page. Like, can you give us just kind of talk about what was busing and why was that problematic?
Is that for Pat?
Right.
Oh,
that's for me. Well, initially,
I was looking at
Shatice.
Okay, I can't tell who looking at who. I can't tell.
Right, we can't tell who looking at that. You know better.
I'm just trying to look at myself. I'm trying
to make sure my head is straight.
Right.
Oh, no, I'm just trying to make sure my head is straight.
I know, I'm trying to look at myself, but Patrick, actually, similar to yourself, I also grew up in private school until I went to high school. But the funny thing is, I'm sorry?
I never knew that.
Yeah, I went to St. Benedict the Moor on 21st Street in Northeast. Yeah, yep.
Okay.
And like you, we were in the city, but our parents brought us to school, or we caught the metro bus. I'm frozen, but I guess you guys can still see me. Hear me.
You're good. You're good.
Okay. And so I didn't know too much about busing. I thought it was cool that when we did move to Maryland, that all of my neighborhood friends caught the bus to school. I didn't know too much about why they caught what bus until I went to high school in Maryland, in Prince George's County at Eleanor Roosevelt. Well, Eleanor Roosevelt was my neighborhood school. And while we did catch a school bus, it wasn't far. And in Prince George's County, most students that live beyond a 2-mile radius of the school are given a school bus. So essentially, that's not really busing the way that we, describe it. But then as you get older and you're starting to notice these imaginary lines, people, 3 different high schools are servicing one neighborhood. You're like, what's that about? And then you learn more and more about busing and why they would break up a neighborhood the way that they did. And obviously it had some historical factors with trying to integrate. But by that time, Prince George's County was the offspring of Chocolate City, and now we're majority African American. And so you're like, well, why are they trying to mix us up?
Right. Right. So I wanted Pat to give us the perspective of what it was
like.
Yeah, when it first started, Pat.
Right, because when I moved to Prince George's County, it was a predominantly white county, and I know Capitol Heights, which now we all know what Capitol Heights is like. But when I moved to Capitol Heights, we were the second Black family in the neighborhood.
Wow.
And Capitol Heights was white. Yes, it was Lily.
Capitol Heights.
Yes, and then on my street, we were the second Black family to move in. And then by the time I was in elementary school.
Can I interject briefly to let people know that anything with the last name Hills or Heights in PG County is very good, but we there. Like it's us. So if your last name is Hills or Heights, Capital District Heights, Temple Hills.
Most of them got their own police department.
That's right.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Okay, go ahead.
That's it though. And so what happened was, by the time I got into what we called junior high school, they call it middle school now, then it started kind of changing, and it were more like a 50-50 ratio with Black kids and white kids. And then by the time I got to high school, it was maybe about a 60-40. But by the time I graduated from high school, it was predominantly Black. Wow. The school, Suitland High School, was predominantly
Did you
Black.
graduate from Suitland?
And
Suitland's fine.
yes, I did.
I did not know that. Oh.
Hey.
Yep. By the time I graduated, Suitland.
You gonna stop yelling, Colgate? We can hear.
Am I yelling?
And we see every one of your
But then when I decided to purchase a home and I wanted to stay within, the PG County, and I moved to one of the heights. I moved to District Heights, but when I moved to District Heights, I was in my cul-de-sac where I live. There was only two other Black families, and all the rest of the families were white. And I had challenges, with them telling us not to play loud music and saying things that really were not kind.
Funny.
And that was 31 years ago, and I wasn't as saved as I am now.
Come on here.
And so we had some challenges.
She said God took her to higher heights.
He took those words out my heart. Now I just keep them in my purse. No.
Like your hot sauce.
Yeah, like my hot sauce
in my bag.
In my purse. Right, it's in my bag. It's in my bag. But yeah, and I had challenges, with the neighbors. But I watched them move out. As more of us started to move in, houses started to go up, and now it's Black and Hispanic. There are a few, but now those who can't afford DC, the ones who can't afford DC, they're moving back to the District Heights.
A cycle.
It's a cycle. It's a cycle. And they're moving back into the area because they really can't afford the district. But this is really a great area because you can go 15 minutes this way and be in Virginia. You can go 10 minutes this way and be in DC. You have shopping, they're developing it. So it's really a good area. And I think they realize that their money can go further here and they can still feel like they live in the district.
Right.
Which is really starting to see a lot of changes in the faces that I see in the stores.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I was in Wegmans, and you all know that Wegmans is off of 202 in Landover or Lanham / Glenarden /
Right.
That ain't Lanham.
Right.
That is not Lanham.
Yeah, whatever they call it.
Like whatever y'all use on the paperwork.
Right.
Yeah.
But the thing is, Shantice, anything but Landover.
Right. Exactly.
Anything but
Springdale, anything to put on the paperwork to draw people.
Landover in between the eyes, but it's not Landover.
Right, like I had a friend that lived by the Branch Avenue station. She was like, "This Camp Springs." I said, "No, boo, this is Suitland." Okay, don't be trying.
Camp Springs the other way.
Ain't no
Right, that's like you look up a hotel when you go out of town, and they try to make it seem like it's like the Capitol Hotel, but it's over there in Southwest.
Or
Right.
and to bring this all kind of closer to home, look up the address to Judah Temple, and it's Bowie and or Mitchellville.
No, we're in Mitchellville. We're in Mitchellville, Maryland.
That's Upper Marlboro.
Right. But Judah, some people say, "Oh, I couldn't find it looking it under Mitchellville," but I found it.
It comes up under Bowie.
That's New Bowie. Bowie just keep on growing. I'm like, how they?
I didn't know that. Bowie is like all over.
Yeah.
And so really, that's kind of like a socioeconomic thing as well.
Absolutely.
Because Bowie is a municipality. It's its own township. And so taxes are different, all that kind of thing. Mitchellville is nice, but it's not Bowie.
Right.
And so, right, it's not incorporated. So, it's a lot of these like lines drawn to kind of establish
draw people
who should be here, who should not be here, all that kind of stuff.
So when my
parents happens a lot in Prince George's County. And the reality is, I don't know if we really talk about it this way, it's Blacks drawing lines around other Blacks because so many people in power in these positions of authority is us. So it's us boxing our cousins in or out.
Yeah, doing the same thing that the other
That's right.
Cultural people did before, because they moved out of the city. You had Reconstruction, and then as it seemed like DC was becoming Chocolate City, they moved out to Capitol Heights, and you'll see those. They worked in the city still, and they were right there in the suburbs. And you'll see those things that land was for sale, and it specifically excluded Black people from buying land in places like Capitol Heights and Fairmont Heights, believe it or not. And so now it's that behavior that we have somehow inherited, and we are doing the same exact thing to our own people.
So it's the red line.
I-
So we're not redlining based on race. It's socioeconomic.
Mhm.
Right.
So,
And if I separate myself, that continues to make me feel, and I'm not coming down on any of our neighbors, but it makes me feel like my property value is higher and I am a little more elite than you. So I create these small city names like Springdale to build a school, hint hint, which is like Landover, and then we don't want the children from Landover and your Kentland and Palmer Park to go to these schools because we're building it in this city that we really created. They said if they can create a Mitchellville, we can create Springdale.
Even when they built the Skin Stadium, remember they changed it to Raljohn,
Maryland.
And you know what that
you
was?
said what?
His son's name was Ralph and John. Right. So they named it Raljohn, Maryland.
Right. Oh, I never heard of that.
I never knew that.
Yep.
Wow.
Raljohn, Maryland. That's where the stadium is located.
No idea.
In Raljohn. And
I think that was Jack Kent Cooke's children.
Yeah, that was the man who built the Great Western Forum.
Shout out to my pastor. Pastor, I've been outside all day and I am definitely getting blackety black.
Yeah, especially on the sides.
Yes, I can't cut this landing strip from the middle now.
It's funny that you would say that, Shantice, because today I walk with a friend and we walk over in Woodmore. And so we have been walking and doing this for a couple of weeks now. But today there was a lady out and there was a couple that see us walking all the time. So when we walked past them, they spoke and they were they must have been talking to one of the neighbors. And so she said to us, do you all live in this neighborhood?
Oh God.
And I just said, oh, we live down the street, and we do the way that Woodmore is set up, it's separated. You can tell the newer part from the older part, and my friend lives in the older part, and so we, but she was like, do you live in this neighborhood? And I was like, Miss, this was a black woman.
I might not put these hands, dude.
Right.
This was a black woman, but you can tell the way.
K&O.
And wait a minute, that's so funny because I was thinking, I laughed because I was thinking, I need to tell her I'm not too. Oh, I shouldn't say that anyway.
It's funny, yeah. That's funny that you say that.
To cash it down. Yeah,
it's funny because we come in all kinds. We come in all kinds, all colors, and with what we're going through, the racial tension in the country right now that the gentleman spoke about when they first started the show, is that when people approach us about what we're thinking or what we would like, it's funny because we don't necessarily speak for one another all the time.
That's right.
And we're so diverse within our own race.
Right.
Yes.
Even on this group, like this family of ours, we were having some conversations last night, and what I love about us is that we all have different perspectives, and we don't agree on that kind of stuff. But at the same time, there ain't no love lost if there's a difference.
Right.
There are plenty of differences, just kind of in this little 5-person group right here on race relations and socioeconomics and all that stuff. And so we are kind of expected a lot of times to speak for the race.
Yeah,
we all got to be Booker T and Du Bois. And one, it's not realistic, and two, it's not fair to hold Shantice by my perspective and to hold Aunt Pat by kind of Mark's values. And I think we do a lot of times find that we share some of the same ideals, but it's not a given necessarily.
Right.
And so I think that's part of the reason why there's so much tension when our allies are asking, what can we do to help? Like, I can tell you what to do to help from my perspective, but it seems like the movement needs to we need that Black caucus to really come together, kind of hash some of this stuff out, because I don't know what we want right now.
Right. And there are some things that go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say there are some things that we as a people could benefit from with some of the changes that hopefully will come down. But at the end of the day, we discussed this also last night. When you treat people like people,
That's right.
The color,
Mhm.
really, there are some things that are different from, Black people and white people and Hispanics, and everyone else. But when you know how to treat people, that really is
Right.
a good foundation.
That's
I
right.
think you said this was your cousin, Mark, last name Pratt. He made a comment on here
Yeah.
earlier, and he said the same thing I said last night, where people are talking about on Facebook how they unfriended people or they're no longer friends because, or the saying that says, "Don't let me make all the racist white people forget about the cool white people that I know." And he said he didn't have any white friends, and I said the same thing last night, cousin. Now I'm sorry, white friends, if I do have you and you're watching, just text me. But I can't think
of who
of
you are right
I can't
now.
think of right.
But look,
And not that I'm racist or don't like white people, but that makes me, because I'm a part of a diverse family and a diverse group of people, when I am around white people or other cultures, I'm okay because I know how to treat people that are different from me.
Mhm.
Jump in, Mark.
this is what I think we were talking about as it relates to the busing. So the mindset is that if you take people from different neighborhoods and they obviously going to have different folk ways and mores and different ways they were raised and that sort of thing. And so then what happens is that we're all going to be in this melting pot and we're all going to learn together. We're all going to learn each other's culture and that sort of thing. But what happens is what usually happens. It happens when you working in the government. I'm sure it doesn't happen at your job because your job, Shatis, is so Black. But but
Well,
but what happens is
and I
that
love it.
people separate according to what they have in common. So the white people were with each other, the Black people were with each other, the whatever, then you had the weird kids, then you had the that's what we said.
Said the weird kids.
Right. You had the Eddies on the Eddie Hall, that's what we said.
Uh-oh.
No, I'm saying that's what people said back in the
day. These ideals are no reflection on Shati's, right?
No
What she believes or professional
Disclaimer.
affiliation.
Ignorant or not, that's what folks said back in the day. So everybody kind of
Right.
separated based on what they had going on. I didn't know the term Eddie meant special education. I didn't know that. So I have a child with autism who I'm very proud of.
Wow,
and I was ashamed. Yeah, yeah, that's where I came from.
This is a lesson I've never heard.
Yeah. Y'all never heard the term Eddie?
No, sir.
Yeah.
Oh, what? Oh,
I think they called it the short bus by the time they came around.
Right. So what happened was they thought we were going to all be together, but the implicit bias that even the white teachers had showed up. So the white teachers were pulling the white kids away from us and took them around, put their arm around them and that sort of thing. And so the Black kids were mad because we were catching the bus. We bought our house from white people in the 70s. And they were white people that lived on my street, slowly started moving out. So if you weren't Puerto Rican or Black, you didn't live on my street. You didn't live nowhere. So what happened was the experiment didn't work. All this busing, it just didn't work. Then the demographics of the county changed. So I learned a bunch of stuff about people I went to school with Hindus, with Sikhs, with Jews, with Muslims. I learned a bunch of stuff that I probably would not have learned. And I have some great relationships with some people who don't look like me to this day. However, it was so like riding a bus for 45 minutes when I could have walked to a school right across the cost wasn't, I mean, the benefit just wasn't worth the cost. So you had a generation of people from several generations, from Pat's to mine, who were just angry about having to ride that bus, and it didn't get no better.
Right.
Yeah.
It didn't get no better.
And I will say, though, where I went to Eleanor Roosevelt, it was pretty diverse. Several reasons. It was further north of the county, which is a little more, that's where you're going to find most of your diversity. And then it was a science and tech school, which also had contributed to the buses because we had a north and a south. Oxon Hill was the other science and tech school at the time. And now Charles Herbert Flowers is the third, is one of them. It might be another one or not. But anyway, so we learned to coexist. We still kind of, flock with our people who we were more comfortable with, who we knew about, but we still coexisted. So we didn't know much probably about the other students and what they did, but it wasn't a tension in the air that we just couldn't go to class together or live together or, just be around one another. And I could be oblivious or naive to how they felt about us. But it was like it wasn't a factor,
And I think the distinction you made about the northern and southern parts of the county is important, because that was kind of the running joke with our friend group, Patrick, because myself and David, we both lived in the hills, the southern part of the county.
Oxon Hill.
David Oxon Hill. I was in Temple Hills.
Yep.
So that's when I learned that our cities had last names, Hills and Heights. And then Patrick and Darlene, EJ, Adrian, they lived in the northern part of Prince George's County, and what was that?
Well, they lived in the
central part.
The central.
And
part.
I lived in the what we call the north.
Oh yeah,
whatever
Darlene,
I used to call that.
Yeah, Darlene was in the center for sure.
So I
but I think EJ and them were up further. They were in Montgomery County, weren't they?
At first, right.
At first.
Okay. Yeah.
Growing up. Landed in Mitchellville.
Right.
Springdale, Largo.
Yeah. Lanham.
That whole mashup.
Real close to Landover.
Right.
Close to Landover.
Right. My cousin said he in West Virginia didn't see color. Like, I saw it, but this is sidebar from PG County. If you're from West Virginia, there are white people, black people, and Native Americans, and a lot of the black people are mixed with Native. Like my cousin who's talking, his grandmother was like very Native, like with the long ponytail, used to sit on the porch and watch everything. And so it was different because everybody was different. Like I know what he means though. Like we saw the color, but it was kind of like a melting pot.
Right.
Right.
It was just as racist as any place else. Don't
right. Because me and Pat drove through West Virginia and we didn't see color either. Because none. See no color.
So I'm sure it's hard for you to see color, Shatis, because
So Mark, was that because of like the socioeconomics of West Virginia that it was more of a melting pot?
Everybody poor,
right?
But you don't know how poor you are. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like coal miners make good money.
Yeah,
they make great money, but there's no industry down there other than the coal mines. The coal mines were shutting down. People were dying of black lung. My grandfather died at 62, which I thought was old. 60, 61, 62, something like that. He was very young. My cousin's grandfather lived for a good while, even though he worked in the coal mines even after my grandfather was dead. So nobody has a whole bunch down there.
And so you coexisted, right?
That's right. And you coexisted. You knew some of the white people. My grandmother did this. We had these little white girls that lived on the street. We brought them into the house. We played with them little white girls all day long. And when the day was over with, we said, bye, see y'all later. They went back up to their house. My grandmother lined us up and said, let me tell y'all little ninjas something. And she didn't say ninjas. She said, y'all can't go to their house and they can't come into mine. And we was like, Grandma, is you racist? And so my grandmother was like, no, I ain't racist. I'm prejudiced.
Okay.
That's right. I agree.
Right.
Patrick definitely agrees. Patrick was the first person to school me on the fact that racism had to do with power dynamics. And I was like, no, racism got to do with race. Duh. And he was like, no, player, you got to look that word up. And I was like, no, racism is race.
And they would argue me down too.
Right. And it was, it was a while before I really understood how deep the term really is.
Yeah.
Well, so if you don't
when we first moved to Maryland, I just thought about it. Then it wasn't called Capitol Heights. It was Hillside, Maryland. when we first moved there.
Mhm.
And then as the things started to change, they started adding the heights and the other things,
Mhm.
and they started renaming and rezoning and that type of thing. But it wasn't Capitol Heights. It was Hillside, Maryland,
You
and
said
even the
Hillside?
streets
Yeah, Hillside.
I didn't know
had
that.
numbers on them.
Wow.
Hillside, Maryland. Yeah.
Didn't know that.
You said the
I just
streets
thought
have
about that
numbers
when I
on
was
them.
sitting here. And then after we stayed there, and it started, and then as it started changing, they began to rename it like Capitol Heights and renaming the streets and all that kind of stuff and changing
After
it.
we started coming, right? They
Yeah,
probably still
Right.
got Hillside
Mhm.
somewhere. We just don't know where it is. They
Yeah.
Right.
hiding.
And they're gonna bring it back out once we
Don't know
leave.
where it's at, right?
It's all
So
ice.
that was
It's all ice right
last
now.
year. I think last year's Black History theme was the migration of Black
Black
people
migrations.
in Black migration. And the Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission had an amazing exhibit on the migration of Black people into Prince George's County from DC, and they shared all of that
Wow.
Hillside. It was awesome. The exhibit was at.
Tati's be excluding me from all the culture, and then she be like,
No, I
"Oh yeah,
saw
I should have
that.
told you about that."
Where
I'm
was
like,
that, Tati?
"Yeah,
I
you
saw
should
that.
have."
Where was that?
It was at Laurel. Where is the is it Mount Pillier home? I think it's the Mount Pillier house in Laurel was
Laurel,
where they
yes,
had it
that's
on the
Mount Pillier.
exhibit. Yeah, they did an awesome job with that. And so anybody that's a native Washington, because I was born in Washington, D.C., and so for the first half I lived there. That's where my Catholic school was. But if anybody, has experienced that migration, you probably find some notes or, pictures or something on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the folks talking about that drive in the Hillside. Y'all showing your age. I remember that drive-in.
Yeah, Joy Wormley. Yep, Hillside Drive-In movie. Yep, remember that.
She probably can't tell us one movie she saw there.
Oh, Alan Clyde said that's his friend's movie. Dr. Dennis A. Doster.
What movies? I can't see the
No, that's
screen.
the program. The program. That's whatever
the program she
is.
talked about, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he probably okay. That was the display.
Program.
Oh, we need to Google that and check that out.
Yeah.
And we talking all this race stuff. Our next show needs to be stuff white people can't say.
I heard you say that about your cousin made the mention about Joe Biden.
That's gonna be the next show. Don't do it tonight.
Because I ain't mad.
Oh, and
with
then we
Joe?
need to talk about the Kente clause.
You're not mad with Joe?
Today.
We might have to talk about that Kente clause.
No. I ain't mad at the Kente club, but they was calling it Kente something.
You're not mad at the
You're
Kente
not mad
clause
at the Kente clause
with the knee?
No. Let me tell you why. Because y'all know they bought that Kente clause from the Congressional Black Caucus. and give it up.
That was in somebody's choir room. They stole them stones from somebody.
And that was real Kente. That was no. See, the Congressional Black Caucus does wear it for pictures like every year. And they real Kente.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Was real. It wasn't that print stuff from China. That was the real Kente. and they had and it's the Ashanti print. I've seen, like, I know that I've got some of that cloth, but they borrowed that and they had to give it back. So
you saying they from their colleagues.
And the photo op was almost
if they
as
have to take
bad
that
as
picture
the
again, they'll
Bible.
have it.
Oh, I love it. I love that pose.
Nah.
The knee?
No.
First of all,
it's the Kente, the white.
So the knee is what? What is the knee?
So
what
they
is the knee?
They took a picture in the Kente cloth.
No, so
kneeling.
I know that I know that they were kneeling, but I'm trying to get at
in protest. That was their display of protest for 8 minutes and I think 46 seconds.
Right.
Nancy Pelosi almost killed herself being on that floor.
Man, your knee, your funny bone in your knee be hurting if you hit that thing.
Yeah.
I looked at that and then I
I'm
thought them people old.
34 and I can't be on my knees.
James Clyburn. Look at James Clyburn on there. He was not there for it, buddy. He was on one knee, but looking around like, who got the clout?
Does anybody remember when Aretha Franklin tried to take a knee during that song and she got stuck?
Yes.
Oh, brother, that's one of the funniest moments of my life. She was, I don't know if she was singing Precious Lord or what, but she took that knee and she got
And the
stuck.
whole world had to help her up.
The Williams brothers were shouting, and she had the microphone, and she kept pointing the microphone, and said, "Come here, come here, get me up, get me up." She was stuck.
Hey, bro, that was hilarious.
And she was at the White House showing off.
Y'all was
No.
what happened to y'all? Y'all was
Lord,
making fun of
understand,
people
jeez.
that fall, like the time when y'all's friend fell at the general conference.
Okay, I'm going.
Okay. Good night, everybody. You all take.
Oh, they gonna leave me on here. See, Pat.
Oh God.
Normally, what
Mark, they left you.
I
What
know
happened?
that's not right. So
That's
somebody
not
fell,
right. They just left you.
and then a lot of people laughed, and it's just it wasn't funny, but it was.
I'm not asking no questions.
Don't ask. Don't ask.
No.
No.
Nope, I'm not asking no
She be
questions.
wearing hats and stuff.
If I knew how to leave, I would leave too.
You can't leave. I'm not gonna let you leave. As a matter of fact, look, why Patrick trying to come back? You ain't no coming back, buddy. Oh, there's no coming back. And you need to be getting back over here laughing. Okay, Pat. Listen, your haircut looks great.
No.
You shouldn't have put that lipstick on. You're too fancy for TV, okay? You're just too fancy. And you got the shine, you look like the shiny stuff. See, this is enough.
Huh? No, I did not. You like my haircut?
It looks good. You was
Thank
almost as pretty as me, Pat.
Mark Anthony, you are crazy.
We need to go.
Okay, so we need to finish. We need to go to commercial.
Okay. All right. Okay. How do I do this? Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for tonight's We Ain't Talking About Nothing. Join us on tomorrow when we're discussing Soul Train. That's all I got. Okay. All right, y'all. I got to go. I'm sleepy. Good night. Thank you all for watching.